today I'm going to go over how to operate and maintain a compressor, and I'm purposefully going to be using it with nail gun equipment. So I'll go over all the different size nail guns, going from a bright nailer, which is a smaller size, to a finish nailer, and finally to a framing nailer. I will also cover all the different nail size that you will be able to use with that equipment, the different gauges. I'll go over and explain those, and I'll also make sure that I cover all the other equipment you'll need to make this work, such as getting the hose, the proper fittings, and also all sorts of safety equipment that you will need to use. We're going to start with the compressor, the most important part of the system. I'm looking here at a Metabo HPT called the tank. And so the first thing you want to do is, before choosing a tank, you need to know what is going to be the use for it. It depends really on what kind of gun you plan on using. For example, I plan on using a framing nailer, and so in that case you really need to make sure that this compressor, which is rather small, can handle a framing nail gun. And the only way to know is if you look here in the specification of the specific model. It will give you the CFM, which is really what you care about. I know, you'll also know what the maximum PSI is, and I guess the higher the best. But really, what's sort of interest to you is that CFM, which tells you how much it can handle. And for example, if I'm using a framing nailer, once I'm using it, how much is it going to cycle through if this compressor cannot handle it? And so you'll see on the market, most of the pancake compressor, which is this size, most of them will not be able to handle a framing nailer. So I got this one because this one is specifically advertised to be able to handle framing nailers. If you only need to use a bright and a finish, then the smaller pancake type, most of them will be able to handle it, but be very mindful of what you get before you get it. Let's go over some of the feature of a compressor, which applies to this one but applies to most model. So I mean, you'll just it's an electric based motor or compressor, so that's what you'll use. You'll just have to like plug it in. Here you have your start and stop, main button. So that's how you will start the compressor. Then at the front you really see two gauges. So the first one is really going to show you the pressure of the air inside the tank, and the one on the right side is what comes out of the regulator and what goes to your equipment, meaning your gun or whatever you have attached to the compressor. So you'll see here, that's where you will connect your equipment. So here you have actually two outlets. I believe they're the same, but yeah, you'll just connect to that, and that's where your hose will be connected to. Here, this big red knob is actually a regulator, and as I was mentioning, you get to choose how much pressure you want out of the tank. And so usually you will have to refer to the actual equipment you're using, and they will tell you usually a range. For example, those guns run between 70 and 100 psi. So by turning this knob, you will get to choose exactly what is the output pressure. You will also see on this side that there is a relief valve, and so that's a safety measure. If this thing was just to like keep building pressure, eventually I'm sure there's like a built-in limit that the air will naturally escape, which is good because you don't want this thing to explode in your face. The last thing I wanted to mention is this. You have a valve at the bottom, which is just a quarter valve. The goal of this is that after each use, you're emptying your tank, and you will finish by opening this valve, which will let any of the moisture buildup that is present in the tank. Because as you compress air, there will be some condensation happening in the tank, and so you will produce moisture inside the tank, and if you don't get rid of it, eventually you could potentially rust the tank, and which would lead to potentially its failure. Next step really will be to get one of those hoses. Pay attention that actually some of the fittings at the end might not be coming with the hose. So for example, in this case, you will need, I don't know what they're called, but kind of a male and female type attachment. And so you will need to buy those two separately to be able to connect to, this one will connect to your equipment, and this one will connect back to the compressor. So for instance here, this one here would just go and attach itself here, and that would be it. And then this end here would go, and for example, if I'm grabbing one of those guns, it would just go and simply, you would just slide it in and boom, that's it. And then to remove it, you just pull on it, and in this case, you would just pull on this and remove it. I'm going to start with this little bright nailer here. So bright nailers shoot the smallest thickness of nails, and they're used for very fine type wood that you would want to prevent from splitting. So they're great for example, setting up quarter rounds at the bottom of your trim or things like that. Before you start using any of those guns, they always recommend that you get some air tool oil and apply. You will always apply a few drops into the gun. So I mean, we'll get to do it for real when I turn everything on, but pretty much they just want 3 drops in it every time. That will make sure that the gun functions properly. A finish nailer is, again, in essence, exactly the same thing, just a bigger size. They kind of differ in ways of loading the nails, so we're gonna go over that as well. So let's go over the different nails that exist for those guns. The difference between a bright and a finish nailer is just the gauge. So there's maybe like a wrong misconception, and that's what I believe originally, is that the bright nailers would shoot just shorter nails and the finish nailers would just shoot longer nails. Well, that's actually incorrect, because both nailers can shoot about the same length of nails. It's just about the gauge, and the gauge is really just the thickness of the nail. So for example, finish nailers will shoot 16 gauge nails versus bright nailers, which will shoot 18 gauge. So it is kind of confusing. Gauges works kind of the other way, meaning that 18 gauge is actually thinner than a 16. So it's just confusing. And you can see here, they come in all sizes. For example, here's 2 inches 16 gauge, and you can also find 2 inches 18. So the exact same length, just a different gauge. This is the finish nail. This is the bright nail. So you can tell that the head is much smaller on the bright than on the finish, and even the body of it will be bigger on the finish nail than the bright nail. Let me show you now how to actually go ahead and load those up. So different nail gun will probably work differently, but right now again, everything here is of the brand Metabo, which used to be Itachi, I believe. So that will give you an idea. So for example, for this bright nailer, you would have to press the bottom here and open up, and then you just slide your nails in, and you will see that there's little slits here that will adapt to the depths of your nail. So for example here, I think this is 1 1/4, so you just set it up and it just fits naturally in there. Once you have loaded your nails in place, you literally just push this up and the gun is good to go. For a finish nailer, it's a little bit different. You can see it just looks different. In this case, you would just pull this down, which open up a slits here on the side, and that is where you will slide your nails. So for example, here I have my 16 gauges nails, and you just slide it in there and it will stop automatically on the nail head. You just push it up, and then once you're done, I believe that's it. You just push this back down and this kind of like springs up and butt against the nails and keep them in place. Alright, I actually had to read the manual because I've never used this framing nailer, and so I couldn't figure out how to use it. So it's always a good thing if there's something I'm not answering in this video, go back to the manual because they'll have the answers for you. Anyhow, it's actually pretty simple, so let me show you. I mean, look at that. I mean, the framing nailer is another level. I mean, you're really shooting like full-on 3 1/4 inch nail. The bottom has a slit. You just slide it from the bottom. You go over this, which they call the nail stopper, right here at the bottom, and you keep fitting it through it, and then you actually take this thing down. You take this thing down past it, and then you see it just easily blocks itself below the actual nails, and so holding it in place. And then if you needed to, like, you know, remove the nails or whatnot, or move this thing around, holding this little piece here, you know, pushes it up, and so makes it go past the nails, and so then you're good to go. The thing I wanted to stress out is really when using this kind of equipment, make sure to wear some ear protection, because this thing, you'll see, gets loud. And obviously get some eye protection as well, because I can literally imagine how much you could hurt yourself, you know, if some projectile, something were to like go towards your eye. So something I forgot to mention, which is actually quite important, especially when you're getting a new compressor before using it. I mean, you're probably like me, you don't really read the manuals, you just want to jump right into it and get to use it. But there's one important thing. Once you run this thing for the first time, they want you to actually run it, so turn it on, but they also want you to open that valve at the bottom, which means that literally this thing is just gonna compress here and it's gonna go right out. And they want you to do this for a full 10 minutes. And this is actually to get the motor going and everything proper. Again, this is per the recommendation of the manufacturer. All right, are you ready? So ear protection on, because this is gonna get loud. We're now ready to hook up everything. There we go. So let's start with the brad nailer. Add your oil, so just a few drops, and connect your equipment. Using the gun is very simple. If you press the trigger, you'll see that it's not shooting anything, which it shouldn't. If it's doing anything when you do that, then something is wrong. Because the only way to activate a gun is to first depress the head. Just depress the head, and that's it. I just shut this little nail where you can barely see it, because the head will be synced in. You can go in your manual, there will always be a way to decide how deep a nail is going in. I believe on this gun, this wheel here that you can move in both directions will affect how deep a nail is driven. But there is another functionality here, which you see the switch. So pretty much I was on the one nail shot, and then you just change it to multiple, and I believe then you just pull the trigger, and then you just get a nail every time you just depress it. So let me show you now the finish nailer, which again is really similar. So once again, that's my finish nailer. I'm gonna remove the protection here at the bottom. I'm gonna add some of that oil, a few. I'm just gonna disconnect this one. That's it. Now connect this one. And so you can hear it. It's kind of filling up. I have to depress, and that's it. And you can tell, I mean, I'm making a much bigger hole this time. And again, you have the two functionality of just one shoot at a time or multiple nails, which then you can just So another function that you have with the finish nailer is actually there's a little additional press point here, which you can actually use as, I don't know if you can hear that, but you can actually use it to like push air out. So for example, if you're trying to like, I don't know, clean some dust or anything like that, just gonna disconnect it. So that's good. Now I'm ready. So I'm pretty excited. I've never used that one yet, so we're about to see how it works. I'm gonna make sure that I'm still at 100. Wow, I mean this one is much heavier. I mean look at this. This is huge. All right, so the nail is 3 1/4, I believe. So it should go through, you know, 2x4. Let's see. Whoa, wow. Look at this. Wow. So once again, and oh, you can feel the power with this one. Wow. And so similarly, you also have I guess a rapid fire functionality where you can just go ahead and shoot them continuously. But again, I'm not gonna waste a ton of nails because I want to save them for actually building stuff. Let's do another one. Yeah, this one is a treat. Once you're done, To properly disconnect everything is pretty easy. So you will start by again just disconnecting your equipment. You can do it here. So that's all I don't know actually if you're supposed to do it that way, but I guess that's what I did. Now this tank, you can turn it off, boom, and unplug it from the power source. The best way I found is to use that safety valve, pull it to empty most of it, and then I finish up with that valve at the bottom. So let's just do that. So once again, you just start with this one. Once you get to a lower level, now you can start using this guy, and that's it. Okay, I think we're good. Look at all the freaking moisture that was in that tank. So that should motivate you to empty it every single time. Because if you let that in, it's going to damage it. And honestly, I would not want this thing to blow in my face. So yeah, follow the recommendations. So this was an overview of using pneumatic type equipment in the compressor. And I know you're probably wondering, the name of the channel is the DIY Cabin Guy. Well, where's the cabin? Well, I'm working on it. Well, not the cabin itself, but I have started getting the permits to get it going. I first need to get a septic system in place, so it's a long process, but I promise you that it is still coming. When I get started on it, there will be a lot of things to look at and a lot of things for me to show you, so I'm pretty excited. For now, I just keep myself entertained with projects around the house, which is what I've been posting. But eventually, once I finally get to build this thing, yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. It's just been a slow process dealing with the county and getting all the permits and everything lined up. So yeah, let me know if I can talk about any other subjects that would be of interest. And thank you for watching.